I learn something new every time you're here. One of the other things that is super interesting to me is this. This is Financial Times. And look at what it says. China exports jump 8% in April despite the tariffs. so,
Yeah. Yep.
so despite the trade
Well,
war,
yep.
please.
But you know what? They're not, that jump is not jump to the United States, because right now we just received on the west coast of the United States the first shipment from China after the tariff has started. And the shipment, it was a huge drop off in terms of containers and in terms of goods that's arrived. So the increase of Chinese export is actually to the rest of the world. This is because China have been preparing for this moment since 2018 during the first Trump term, when Trump gave Chinese companies and Chinese leadership a great shock when they start sanctioning Chinese companies, and later when they arrested Huawei CFO Meng Wanzhou in Canada on behest of the United States for supposedly sanction busting for supplying telecom equipment to Iran. And that led China down this process of diversifying from the United States. At one point, 30% of China's export was to United States. Now it's about 14%. And United States used to be the top destination for Chinese export. Today, the biggest trading partner for China is ASEAN, is the Southeast Asian countries. This is
Mhm.
why Xi Jinping never picked up the call. He went to Southeast Asia. He went to visit Vietnam, visit Malaysia, because that's where the Chinese investment is going. That's where the Chinese supply chain is expanding to. Of course, with the new Trump tariff, a lot of goods are now gonna, a lot of Chinese components now it's gonna ship to Vietnam, and they're gonna be for the final assembly, and then they're gonna
Yeah.
ship to United States. If you look at the data for Vietnam's import number from China, it's skyrocketing. Vietnam's export to United States skyrocketing. You can just put two and two together. You see what is really going on here. So there's really no true decoupling from China. But at the same time, China is decoupling from the United States by focusing on markets outside of US. And this is why China has been prepared, but United States is not. Because as I said over and over, China has been diversifying to other markets. Our Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, keep on saying,
Yeah.
Chinese need us. They need our money, right? They need our market. Well, money is fungible. China can find other market for their goods. They can create stimulus. They can print money. But how is United States going to find replacement for the Chinese goods? A lot of people think, oh, it's easy. We'll just get it from elsewhere, from Vietnam, from India. Well, first of all, how is that bring manufacturing back to the United States? You're just shifting
Right.
production
right.
out of China. But second of all, you are this is not as simple as, people are so removed from manufacturing in the United States. They think creating supply chain is like snapping your finger. It
Mhm.
turns out when Apple tried to shift this extra production to India in order to manufacture iPhone just for Americans, so Americans will get the special made in India iPhone. When Apple tried to do that, they ran into problem because Chinese government put some soft block on exporting machineries to Foxconn factory in India, because
Uh,
for Apple to move their production line, they still need Chinese machine tools to make iPhones, and they still need Chinese components. And and Chinese government say, you know what, we see what you're doing. We're not going to allow that.
Are you serious? Oh, that
Yes,
is
yes.
hilarious.
So you there's really no running away from the Chinese supply chain. Like when China start restricting rare earth shipment to United States, there's a lot of big brain talking heads say, "Oh, it's easy. Rare earth is actually not rare. We can just opening mines. We close mine because of the environmental regulation." Okay, never mind how long it will take to open a new mine. Usually 3 to
Mhm.
4 years, but even for it's not as simple as dig it out of the earth, because you need to refine it. Where China dominates is actually the refining process, to refine the rare earths into magnets you can use in in your EVs or in your Raytheon, Lockheed Martin weapons. But to make the magnets, guess what? All the machines to make that magnets, guess where they're made? They're made in China. So they're going to have to import those machines from China if they want to start the whole the rare earth supply chain in the United States. And guess what? They just got hit by 145% tariff by Trump. So again, people are so far, like they're happy hollowing out of manufacturing from the United States so long. People in the US, even the so-called smart people, they don't know about manufacturing anymore. They don't know anything about supply chain, right? People like Scott Besson, what did he work before? He worked for George Soros, for the Soros Fund. I mean, what does he know about manufacturing? And I mean, he might know a lot about derivatives, and trade and the bond market, but what does he really know about manufacturing and supply chains? It turns out I don't think he knows very much, and he's apparently getting his information from China, from likes of like Gordon Chan. Like he thinks China is facing imminent collapse if they don't export to United States, which could be further from the truth. I was in China in April, and what I've seen on the ground, Boom of Shanghai, which is a very touristy area, is booming. It's full of domestic tourists, and people can look at all the footage online of the recent footage coming out of China last week, because China actually celebrates the International Workers' Day like the rest of the world, and most people in China get the first week of May off. So every tourist spot in China is fully jam-packed right now. And
just to be clear, did you say the first week?
First week, yes. Don't go if you want to travel to China. Don't go in the first week of May, and don't go in the first week of October, because October is their national day, and they also get a whole week off. And that's when like the entire China is on vacation for those 2 weeks, and it's just terrible. Like everywhere just be jam packed with people. But they are not concerned about the tariff. I'm telling you, they're not. They're really not thinking about it.
Well, Carl, Trump said, and my president wouldn't lie to us because he's our president, that China is on the brink of collapse. The factories have been closing left and right, and that you all are effectively desperate for a deal because of the factories collapsing.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Xi Jinping never called, and they are making it. They're all like Scott Besson keep on saying they need us. Guess what? They never called, and when they finally made contact, guess what? It's because the Chinese vice premier, he was going through a trip to Europe to talking to the EU leaders, because now EU and China have agreed to remove all mutual trade restrictions, like including all the sanctions during Trump's first term and Biden years, because Europe is finally waking up. It's like, okay, maybe we cannot depend on the United States with Trump at the helm. And so they're going back to China to make nice. And so this is why, this is where Trump is a great peacemaker. Is bring Eurasia back together, right? And he did that in East Asia too. China, ASEAN, Japan, South Korea, they also just recently met in Milan in Europe, and they came up with a joint statement. They're going to form the world's largest free trade bloc. This is huge. This is, China has 1.4 billion people. ASEAN, the Southeast Asia, has 680 million people. Japan has more than 100 million. South Korea has 50 million. You add it all together, that's more than 2 billion people. That's a huge market, huge block. And they all condemn Trump tariff. So again, Trump is the great peacemaker of East Asia. He managed to bring China, Japan, Korea, these old enemies back together to sit in the one table to agree to form one trade block. And remember, just a week before, Japan said they would not sign on any American-led anti-China trade bloc, because they said their relationship with Beijing is too important. And then a week after they went to sign free trade agreement with China, with the rest of the East Asia. Trump is my president for acceleration. It's
I want to
making
play.
peace everywhere.
I want to play a clip for you. This clip is outrageous. I want to get your take on it because it's so outrageous. Again, my president, Donald Trump, he's asked about, hey, it seems like people are going to be losing their jobs because, the, the shipping containers aren't really coming in. So if they're not coming in, they're not making money, and those people are going to be laid off. Listen to what he says here.
Because business has slowed down, as you mentioned, in China. But we're seeing as a result, the ports here in the U.S., the traffic has really slowed, and now thousands of dock workers and truck drivers are worried about their jobs.
Yeah, no, that means we lose less money. When I see that
because business.
She told him, Mr. President, because many ships aren't coming in anymore because of your tariffs, that the dock workers are going to lose their jobs. And he says, well, that just means we have a less trade imbalance. Like we're losing less money. Like she is literally telling him people are going to lose their jobs.
Jamar, I really want to get the BYD supercar, the one that I show speed got in China, the Yangwang U9 that can jump up and down and dance. And that car is $250,000. I really want to get that car. But you know what? I decided I'm not going to do that. So I just made $200,000, Jamar. I just made $250,000.
He's acting like an exchange of goods like magically disappears when you buy the good. Like if I go to the store and I buy a stereo, that somehow the money vanishes or the stereo vanishes. You got an item for the money that, like, meaning there's an exchange that has taken place.
Jamar?
You have it wrong.
It's so unfair. It's so unfair. I go to the grocery store, I buy shitloads of grocery from them. They never buy anything from me. I mean, I think I'm gonna boycott my grocery store. This is unfair.
And I just starve, right? I just go on a fast for a month because I want to keep my money.
But Jamar, American consumer hasn't really been hit yet. Because now they're still working through the 5 to 7 weeks of inventory the American businesses build up in anticipation of the tariff, because they have been front loading by importing a lot in April, in March, and so that's why right now, if you order through Amazon, you're actually getting goods delivered from Amazon storehouses, but those supplies gonna run out eventually in 5 to 7 weeks. But even so, price already started to rise. Why? Because when these companies start to stockpile in anticipation of the tariff, they have to pay additional warehouse fees. And guess what they did? They just passed additional warehouse fee right to the consumer. That's why we're already seeing the price increase even before the shortage hit. But it's gonna get really, really bad if nothing is done. And by early June, July, it's gonna be a mess. And even if Trump were to roll back tariff today, June is still effed. It's still FUBAR because it takes 15 to 30 days to cross the Pacific. So even if they restart the trade again today, even if the Chinese suppliers say, okay, let bygone be bygone, we will trust you again, we will start taking your order again, you will take if they load up ships in China today, you will take 2 weeks to get to port of Los Angeles and Long Beach, and you will take 4 weeks to reach New York. And so even if they unplug the embargo today, the supply chain is so messed up. And then keep in mind that the U.S. port is designed to handle like optimum traffic, like a smooth sailing of continuous supply. It's not handled to like a like a traffic jam situation where there's like no ship for a month, and suddenly all the ships comes in. There's just gonna be a huge traffic jam at the ports. So the supply chain is already effed. I'm sorry. I mean that's like at least for the summer, it's already FUBAR. We're really talking about whether can we save the Christmas season this year. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about if a deal can be done. We're really talking about saving the Christmas season right now.
I keep thinking to myself, what kind of deal can these two even make? So apparently, China and the U.S. are going to meet. As you pointed out, this was because the U.S. Trump kept saying, "I'm talking to China. I'm talking to China," even though his underlings were like, "We're not talking to China," and China was like, "We're not talking." to Trump.
And the Trump and the Chinese Foreign Ministry said, we finally agree after U.S. repeatedly pestering us for a talk. So this is why when our vice premier is on his way in Europe, we decided, okay, we'll allow for a side meeting with the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. So Scott Bessent is flying to Switzerland to catch the vice premier of China when he goes through Europe. And if you listen to Scott Bessent says, how they're going to work out the deal, he said, well, okay, first we're going to meet, and then for the next 2 days, we're going to decide, what we can agree to talk about. So we're not even talking about actually working a deal. They're going to spend 2 days to talk about what they can agree to talk about. I mean, like, we are at a very early stage of any kind of deal right now. Right now, they just agree to talk, and they still don't know, what they're even going to talk about. I mean, remember when the Japanese delegation came to Washington, Jamar, after the Liberation Day, they came to find out what the hell is going on and what the Washington want, and the Trump's people told them, what is your offer? And the Japanese delegate was flabbergasted, like, we came here to find out what you want.
Right.
It doesn't look like you know what you want. And,
it's like, you've passed all these tariffs. We come here to try to figure out what's going on, and you're asking us what's our offer. It's like, dude, we don't even know what's happening right now.
This is why they left with the no deal. So we are still at that stage with China. We're just barely start talking right now. So I think the market actually, overreacted to think the deal is imminent. No, the deal is not imminent. And China has always said, the Chinese Commerce Ministry has always said, the precondition for a deal is it must be based on mutual respect.
Right.
And United States must remove all the unilateral sanction and tariff first. So I mean, and I don't know. Like Trump right now, first he says, no, we're not going to unilaterally remove all the tariff. Now he's talking about, okay, maybe the tariff will come down a little bit to 50%. So I don't know what's going on, man. Like, this guy, he can change his mind just like that. We're still at very early stage of two-side talking. I don't foresee any kind of deal reaching this month.
But to be clear, though, from China's point of view, 50% is not going to cut it. It has to go down to zero before we can even start talking. And one other thing. Scott Bessent has been out there. I think I played the clip for you where he's like, yeah, we want to help China reorganize their economy to a more consumer-based economy like ours. And, we need to reshuffle how the balance. And we're just doing this out the kindness of our heart because we're love and light. We're the city on the hill. We just want to do the best for other countries. We're just trying to help China. We're offering a helping hand. It's like, okay, dude, just shut up right now, right? It's like nobody believes that you're trying to do this. You are literally having a tariff war where you put tariffs up to like 145%. And you are standing there with tariffs at 145%, and we're just trying to help China out. Get out of here with that nonsense, right? So what with that framing that they're going with, even if they drop it to zero just to start negotiations, what does that even look like? Like, I don't even have a frame of reference. Like, it's one thing if they make a trade deal with the UK. Okay, well, from my understanding, the UK had a trade surplus with the US, meaning they were buying more from us than vice versa. Yeah. Something to that effect. Yeah. It was basically, the tariffs was at 1%. It was some ridiculously low level. And so the UK was already in a vulnerable position because they pulled away from the European Union. So they were like out there with their ass out by themselves.
UK wanted to do UK wanted to do deal with United States because they screwed themselves with the Brexit. They
Exactly.
screwed themselves by cutting themselves with EU. So they want to deal with United States. This is why Trump decided. This is why Trump decided to deal with them first, because this is the easy picking, right? The UK, they're the supplicant. They basically offered themselves on a silver platter, like, please do a deal with us. And Trump is like, okay, this is a big win. It's a big country. It's a big respected country. And I'm like, I did not know UK is a big country or respected, but okay, okay. Yeah. I mean, like, and this will not move a needle in terms of the real problem really is of China. Our trade embargo is really with China. This is amazing because
exactly that's my point.
If China had done a trade embargo on the United States like a year ago, Washington would have declared war. That's an act of war. But except like this time, it's Trump that signed an executive order embargo United States himself. It's really amazing. I mean, like,
and by the way, just to be clear, that is not even a deal with the UK. That's a framework for a deal. And if you remember in one of the meetings, they asked about the cows or something. And it was like, well, hey, they can't take your cows because of all the chemicals that we put into our cows and chickens and stuff like that. And Trump was like, yeah, Bobby's working on that, which implicitly points out, yes, this shit is full of chemicals that they can't sell to the UK or for that matter, the EU. Then the guy comes in, we have big, beautiful cows. Our cows are top of the line. Americans don't realize this. Our meats and stuff cannot be sold into the European Union because of all the gunk and stuff we put into our meats. Like, we put like antibiotics in our when we do our chickens, just for the American public, just in case they don't know, we pack them in so tightly that they don't have room to move. And so they would pet the other chickens to death just to get room to move. So we fill them with antibiotics because they're standing in shit all day. Then we pack them with like Benadryl to calm them down. Then we give them uppers so they can continuously eat all day. Like, this is and growth hormones to make them fat.
I mean, from egg to like the chicken breast on your dinner plate, 35 days. 35 days from the egg to what you had to eat for dinner. And when my wife came to visit United States with me 2 years ago, when I brought her to meet my parents, and the first thing she noticed is like, the chicken has no taste in US. This chicken is tasteless. I'm like, what do you expect, man? They raised that chicken in 35 days. You're asking too much for taste. This is not the Indonesian chicken.
That's magic. Oh man, I mean, I felt that way when I was in abroad too. Like, the food tastes different. Yes. And look, as an American, I would say it is annoying to me as an American sometimes because, for us, when you go to our stores, my ex-girlfriend, she's from Austria, and she comes into an American grocery store. She says, oh my God, it's so big. And you look at the bread aisle, they're like, an entire aisle of all these different types of breads, honey wheat, honey, multigrain, etc. And then you look at the bacon and they're like 20 different brands of bacon, honey, brown sugar. And then in Europe, it's like bacon. It's like one or two brands, right?
Yeah. But then you buy it home, and then you take it home, then you put it in your mouth, and you're like,
it tastes different.
Where's the taste? Where's the taste? Like my I mean, like, I have to tell you, Jamar, even American fast food tastes better outside of the United States. McDonald's. KFC tastes better in China. McDonald's tastes better in Indonesia. Coca-Cola tastes better outside the United States. You know why?
It depends on where, though.
Oh, it depends on where. But in Indonesia, the Coca-Cola tastes good because they use real cane sugar rather than that high fructose corn syrup crap we use back home. It's totally different. That the real cane sugar tastes so much better than high fructose corn syrup. But
Yeah, it does.
we got
No,
the
you're right.
farm lobby to please. So
You're right. You're
yeah,
totally right on that. The best McDonald's I've ever been to, believe it or not, India. I shocked the hell out.
I
Like
believe that. I believe
it
that.
was very
I believe that.
clean. The people used to come and take your plates up, and so you leave it and they just come and take it. The food was fantastic. The soda didn't taste good for whatever particular reason,
Ah,
but it was almost like a regular restaurant. It was very strange. It caught me off guard, to be
yeah,
honest.
yeah.
Um,
It's upscale. It's like in McDonald's in Indonesia too. It's like it's kind of hip place where the youngster go on for dates and stuff. Like it's.
okay, I'm sorry. We've totally gotten off base on this one. Let me ask
Yeah,
you this:
yeah,
what
yeah.
kind of deal can they come to? Like, let's say the U.S. says, "Okay, we'll drop this to zero just so we can start the negotiations, start talking." China has already said we are equals, so none of this, your dominant shit. Nope, that's not the way we're dealing with this. We're dealing with this as equals. With Scott Vincent and Peter Navarro, whose sole objective is to effectively destroy the Chinese economy so the US can regain some kind of hegemonic control, China knows that going into the negotiations. So, what kind of deal can they even come to? Like, I can't wrap my head around it. As you point out, the
Well,
UK
first,
was a supplicant, they needed a deal. China is a different animal.
first, the White House need to articulate what the heck they want, right? I mean, they couldn't do that with Japan. I don't see how they could do that with China. Like, what do you guys actually want? I mean, like Trump said he wanted to reduce the deficit. Well,
Right.
guess what? You, there are goods that China want to buy from the United States, but you're banning them from buying. Well, I'm talking about all the high tech items. They want to buy GPUs from Nvidia, and you just passed the law said no, we're not going to let Nvidia sell GPU chips to China. I mean, that's what China really want to buy. So you're telling them no, you can only buy soybean and corn. I mean, there's only so much soybean and corn China can buy from the United States, and that's not going to make up for the difference, right? I mean, it's all the so basically, China end up with all these surplus dollars, and they can't spend. They can't spend because United States government wouldn't let them. And what U.S. want them to spend on is U.S. Treasuries. This is why in the past U.S. Treasury Secretary like Janet Yellen keep on going to China, begging for them keep on buying our debts. But China has realized this is a losing proposition because what are we doing? We're just taking all these IOUs and then go on and finance U.S. Military expeditions.
Right.
What's in it for us? This is why they started the whole Belt and Road Initiative, so that they can invest those dollars in more productive investment by building connectivity, building ports, infrastructures, so they can increase their trade with the rest of the world. And they will likely keep doing that. At one point, China had $1.4 trillion worth
Are
of
you
U.S. Treasury.
serious?
Yes.
Wow.
But today, it's only down to 700 billion. It's almost down to half. And China is not even selling the treasury. They're just holding the existing bonds they have to maturity, but they're just not buying any new ones. But U.S. want China to invest their surplus dollar into the U.S. Treasury, so U.S. can keep on living on low interest rate, can keep on going spending. And I don't think that's what China wants to do. So I mean, there's kind of fundamental differences. I mean, I don't see how that can be resolved. Unless Scott Bessent propose some kind of innovative way to resolve this contradiction, because they don't want to sell China what China actually want, which is U.S. high-tech products, because they say, oh, China is going to use that to develop its military, and so we don't want you to have it because we've got to maintain our 6-month lead in AI development or whatever, which is probably not even true anymore. And so, yeah, well, what it's give and take, right? And I don't know what U.S. plan to give, because so far from trade negotiations U.S. conducted with other countries. It's all big stick, no carrots. They're
Right.
like, if you don't do what I say, I will increase the tariff. It's not like, okay, we be buddy. I'll give you a lot of shitloads of money as investment, to at least to replace your loss for not doing business with China. They're not even doing that. They're just saying you gotta stop doing business with China, and then otherwise we're gonna increase your tariff. I mean, this is why this turns a lot of countries off, because they don't
Mhm.
want it to make that decision. They don't want to choose. And so here we are. So I don't know. I think people in Washington have to do a serious reevaluation of the true position of United States vis-a-vis China in relative terms, because right now they're not. I think the problem is that the people in Washington, they have been imbibing too much of their own propaganda, right? I
Mhm.
mean, U.S. is great at propaganda because U.S. invented marketing, right? Madison Street. But
Right.
but the problem is when your own leaders start to consume the same propaganda. This is why whenever they talk about China, it's like this echo chamber, right? You have
Yeah.
people like Noah Smith acting like the China expert, but he never been to China, mainland China. He told me himself, and then all he know about China is what he read in the mainstream media. So he's just regurgitating, and then somehow those same spiel get regurgitated through like people's likes of Gordon Chan to the year of Peter Navarro, Scott Besson, and they have a very distorted view of what actually China is. And this is why they think China must need to come to deal with us. They need this more than us. Well, that's why China hasn't been calling. Like they're like, you're right. It's too much. We need the deal, but just not with you guys. We need deal with other people.
Yeah. It's like Britain. The sun never sets on the British Empire. Yes, it does. You're a little country that
But
at this point was a supplicant to the United States. Like
well,
you,
see, this is the thing, Jamar. British people actually live much better after they have given up the empire, than before, than when they were the empire. I mean, this could be America too. This Americans can live a very comfortable life if they just stop wasting resources, waging endless wars around the world, trying to maintain the U.S. hegemony. And when the U.S. hegemony is actually not doing anything for the average Joe six packs in Michigan, if anything, it's screwing them up the ass.
but see, what I'm talking
Like,
about is the mindset.
yeah,
Like, 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 for example, when Donald Trump, let's say, deals with Russia, for example. Okay, we've lost that war. Donald Trump acknowledges it was a proxy war. Donald Trump also acknowledges if it keeps going, Russia's going to take all of Ukraine. And yet, despite the fact that that implicit acknowledgement of a failure of U.S. power, he still comes at it from the position of authority, saying, "Well, this is our plan that we're offering. Last final offer." Dude, losers don't get to dictate terms. Like the notion that the Nazis would be able to turn to the the Allies. It's like, so this is what we want in order to end the war. How do you do that, right? But again, it's an American president. The media space is going to scream at him if he doesn't behave that way. And
yep,
they'll be like, I can't believe that American president, he's capitulating. He's capitulating.
yep.
It's the way we think. And so when
Yeah,
he's dealing with China, it's the exact reason that he thought, representing 5% of the total population of the globe, that he was able to have a trade war with the entire world. Like that is some outrageous shit, right? But that is the way we think. It's in our minds. It's
yeah.
in our minds.
Unfortunately, you are right. Absolutely.
Carl, man, thank you for this. I really do appreciate it. Like I said, I learn something new every day. I love your historical breakdown. I don't know how many people would know that. You should teach a class on that. I know you have your videos with it, but Lord knows that is we
I
miss
have a
out on it.
podcast, Jamar. I run a
Yeah, I know, but
podcast.
I'm saying that should be in schools because we lose something when we don't know that, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Like if you
I
don't
agree.
know that China was um the sacrifice that they made, then your point of view it's skewed. Like you lose something in knowing that. You may know, okay, the Soviets gave a huge amount, but it gets contorted into this notion of, yeah, the Soviets were there and the French were there, but America. That was the that was the deciding factor. We lost what 200,000 people in that war, compared to like 30 million Russians, 20 million more Chinese. I, like the sacrifice, there's the weight of it. It's not given in a way that we can understand it. It's lagging, and like I told you, I don't even remember China being mentioned in our history courses when we were going over the war. Like it's
Hey, you remember the Pearl Harbor movies, right? In the Pearl Harbor movies, there's a part where they have to crash the Doolittle raid over Tokyo. They have to crash land their plane in
Mhm.
China, and those American pilots were saved by the Chinese. So so people who, at least if they have watched Pearl Harbor, they're at least somewhat peripherally aware that China play a role in World War II.
It's like there were 3 Chinese people there in the war. Carl, man, thank you for this, man. Carl Jha.
Yeah.
Carl Jha is host of Silk and Steel podcasts, focused on China and surrounding regions and their history, culture, and politics. You can follow Carl on Twitter at Carl Jha. Follow his podcast on Twitter at Steel Silk In. Subscribe and support the podcast on patreon.com, Silk and Steel. Carl, is there anywhere else people can find you, by the way? And when is your next broadcast?
I am a prolific shit poster on Twitter. Oh yeah, you already gave my Twitter handle. I have a YouTube channel, Carl Zha. It's my same handle, Carl Zha. And my I do on my Patreon side for my subscriber. I'm doing a chronological rundown of Chinese history. Currently, I'm at 450 BC. So that's like 30 years after the death of Confucius. I'm already covered like almost half of the Chinese history, folks. Like
Carl,
I just have another 2,500 years to go.
I am going to have to subscribe to your channel. There's this great history channel that does the First World War, Second World War, intervening years, and they do week by week by week, starting at the, like, let's say in the very beginning, going all the way through the war of events that took place that exact week. It is phenomenal. It is like just phenomenal. So I love stuff like that. I'm going to have to check out your Patreon.
Definitely. I was doing year by year. I was doing year by year of the Chinese history. What happened in the year 478 BC.
Carl, you're being lazy, man. You got to do week by week for 4,000 years, for 5,000 years of history every week. And this week, Confucius said this, and then go to the next week for 5,000 years. No, man, I'm going to have to check that out. I am a sucker for that stuff. Yeah. I am a sucker for it. I love it. Carl, man, thank you for this. I really do appreciate it. Great show. We have a great cast. We had up to like 730 people, and it just kept ticking up and up and up every time you open your mouth. Thank you for this. Be safe, man.
Thank you, Jamar. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Anytime.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Carl Jha, that was a fantastic